Today is July 5. It is a Wednesday morning. Welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde. You know, guys, it's July 5, just in case you forgot. For some of you, you haven't been in primary school in a very long time, so be reminded.
We're going to hear the next countdown very soon.
It's just another day of news gathering, news reporting and all, guys. And one thing that was very disturbing for me, scouring through my WhatsApp and one of the various that I'm sure you also have, I saw a video that disturbed me. I don't know how recent it is, but looking into the news, I saw that it's even on our website, Channels Television, that the gunmen, in Ebonyi State, they actually dispersed traders in Ebonyi over what they call a sit-at-home order. What disturbs me is, we know how significant this is, for how long we've been at this, and it will seem like it's intractable. If you look on our website, for instance, you'll find that it was something that happened yesterday around the Ukwashi suburbs of Abakaliki, the capital of Ebonyi State, where the government were enforcing a sit-at-home order by the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, which caused panic in the area. And of course, that was confirmed through a telephone call put to the Ebonyi State Police Command. And, even though, yes, it said that no one was injured, but if memory serves us right, we know that this has significantly affected economic life in the environment. We remember the previous administration said one of the things that delayed the work on the second Niger Bridge was because of the sit-at-home order, So I was just wondering, guys, is it that our security officials are unable to tackle it, or we just left our people in the southeast to their fate? We have the police there, we have the SSS there, we have all security agencies there, we have the NSCDC there, we have all of them, the military, the Navy, the Army, everyone is there. So why is this so intractable? Nicola?
I wish I had the answer, but, we can't talk enough about the consequences of the continuing, destruction, killing and maiming of lives and property by unknown gunmen in the southeast. IPOB has repeatedly said they're not responsible, but, it's not in doubt that they're responsible for the sit-at-home order in most parts of the southeast, something that the new administration in Enugu State is trying to tackle, with little success, in the early days of, encouraging people to ignore the sit-at-home order. What we know is that, the activities continue. The activities of unknown gunmen continue. We know also, according to what the Niger Delta agitator said a few weeks back, that there is now a faction of IPOB in the southeast led by one Simon Ekpa, who has, put up a coup against Nnamdi Kanu. But the question is really, is this intractable? Is it impossible for security agents to defeat? Who are the unknown gunmen? I just talked about the significant loss, to the economy of the Southeast that was initially known as a haven of peace and, in fact, commerce. So it speaks to the need for, our government agencies, government itself in charge of securing lives and property, to be creative. This is a time that, this socioeconomic problem will test their capacity and their creativity as problem solvers. It's not enough to just have governors' forums and, groups of governors' forums, with regional demarcations, but that they must work together, regional collaboration, to solve these kinds of problems, that these problems are intractable, that we should settle it into it as though it was business as usual. This is the new order of the day in regions of the country. We can also talk about, a banditry in the northwest and in other parts of the country. It's totally unacceptable. The reason elected public officials are there in the first place is because we trust their capacity to solve these problems.
Yeah. So,
Nyota and Chimele.
Before we go to them, I just want us to even emphasize the fact that, it is necessary to ask these questions because it's only he who feels it that knows it. A lot has been lost, lives have been lost, property have been lost, lives have been literally stagnated, and no one is saying anything. The least we have heard, from the police is that, okay, they have arrested the situation. The question then is, who is benefiting from this? Well, we'd like to hear from you. You have our email address right there on your screen, and of course, you can reach us on Twitter as well. But who is benefiting? How significant has this been for you if you're in the Southeast? Well, my colleagues also have a thing or two to add. NT.
I do know that in any house, if in your house you find rodents disturbing your environment, what you do, you either go look for rodent traps to trap them, or you get a fumigator, or those that go after these things to get them out of your house. You find a treatment for it. This matter of unrest, the sit-at-homes, has been going on for months and years, and the truth is that the question I asked is really a tenable question. Who is benefiting from this? How is it that a people will sit down and begin to destroy their own home from within? This is not coming from the outside. You sit down and begin to destroy your own home from within, and then when there is no investment or nothing, no development coming to your region, you begin to wonder, why is nobody coming back home? Your brothers, your sisters are out there in different parts of the world, and indeed in different parts of the country. Some of them despise, some of them uncomfortable, and they would love to come back home. But when they come back home, you make them uncomfortable. Why? And you who is giving that order, are you even back there? These are some of the questions that a lot of people will be asking. But I have a feeling that someday, real soon, the people of that region might get up on their own and begin to tell those people enough is enough, as they have even said. But the new government in that region as well will need to get up and do something. But beyond that is, where are the traps to trap the rodents? Where are the fumigators that will chase them out of that place? They are there. I mean, the laws are there. This organization has been proscribed. So why is the law not being implemented or being enforced, as the case may be? The organization's been proscribed. That prescription has not been rescinded. So what's going on? How come the people cannot sit down and go about their businesses safely? I mean, we call that region, as Buki said, the region of economy. It's the economic region of this country, so to speak. And people can go on every Monday. You can't even leave your house. If you're in the Southeast, you can't leave your house on Monday to go anywhere. You're stuck in the house. For what? How much is lost in that economy every Monday in the last how many years that people sit down at home? The markets do not open, no transportation, nothing whatsoever.
You know, it's really disheartening to hear that this kind of thing is even happening anywhere, let alone in the country such as ours. But is there a new sheriff in town? We'd like to know. Yes, we have heard the acting IGP say that you remember the phrase he used several, he feels like a tiger. So if you're talking about rodents or traps, those ones are perhaps piece of cake when it comes to what a tiger or a lion can do.
Okay.
So we're waiting to see what they say about all of these things, because look, talk is cheap. They need to walk the talk, because in those images and footages that people saw, did you see any presence of any security agency or outfit whatsoever? That is a question. Even if people say they want to go out there, who is protecting them? Nobody is just going to go in and walk into what they don't know because you simply said, don't go ahead and sit at home. Look, there are people who want to go out there and get down to work. But if they don't feel their lives and property are protected, how do they go out? So we're looking to see what is the... Look, we have new service chiefs. The NSA has spoken separately. The IGP has spoken about all of this. So the ball is back on your courts, gentlemen. Let's see how you play. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the dailies for you this morning. And we will start with Vanguard newspaper. Yesterday was a big day in the manner of speaking for some people, because in the National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, they went ahead and elected principal officers, but there are some reactions as well on those activities that transpired. So this is how the Vanguard reflects what happened. 10th NASS, APC disowns principal officers named by Akpabio Abbas. You thought, whoa, after they went ahead and elected the president of the Senate, the deputy president of the Senate, the speaker, and the deputy speaker, you thought, alas, they crossed the hurdle, the Rubicon. But you then see this one, and you wonder, what is going on now? Oh, boy. I mean, look at the riders now. As governors pledge loyalty to party leadership, that's a Vanguard newspaper. And then Akpabio announces Bamidele, Senate leader, Omahi, deputy, Ndume, chief whip, Ashiru, deputy whip, Ningi, Dixon, Aliero, Tambuwal dropped, all dropped, those gentlemen. And then you also get to see Akpabio asks lawmakers to focus on what brought them to Senate, support Tinubu in stabilizing Nigeria. And then you see, I never knew they were, signing. Nobody called me, nobody informed me, not even an SMS says, Senator Musa, what? We don't have the Vanguard? Do we go to somewhere else, guys? What's going on? And then you get to see, will constitute special standing committees before end of July. Senate leader Abbas names Siobere majority leader, Chinda minority leader, as PDP, LP, NPP share other minority positions. So that's what you get to see right there today. So it is interesting right there when you thought that all's well that ends well, but no. And then what we highlighted this morning, guys, is at the bottom strip here. Obey, sit at home, face closure. Enugu government tells traders, businesses. Much as it is good that he's doing what he can to ensure that they get back to work, because look, this is stifling the economy of the region. So if you don't get investments, if you don't get commerce, if you don't get things moving, how do you expect things to thrive? How do you expect investments, economy to grow? But is it just mere pronouncement by the governor? So what if somebody is coming out, as we highlighted, and one of those, whoever they are, accost them on the road? What happens?
Just one day, you might just see that people take the laws into their hands, and that is been wrong to even take the laws into your hands. But for how long? When you push people to the wall, after a while, they'll hit back. You know,
this could lead to an armed struggle. Because if people wait for security agencies and they don't get them coming through, they'll tell you, listen, I know you call it illegal, whatever you will, but listen, my life is at stake here. Yeah. Better safe than sorry. After all, what is it that the book says? A living dog is better than a dead lion. So it's better they do something to protect themselves rather than living their fate or hoping, which is not a strategy, hoping something goes right. Come on, guys. We need to do a lot more on that one. And then you get to see 2023 polls. INEC engages 427 lawyers to prosecute 215 electoral offenders. Oh, boy. Okay.
And they're doing it pro bono.
Yeah. Don't forget, you can check out what's going on the back page as well. So that is Vanguard here today.
The Guardian's what I have here. And yes, spread across that front page is that story. Tinubu Adamu's Cold War worsens as Akpabio Abbas appoint principal officers. That's a big story on the front page of The Guardian. And picture, yes, there you have it. See that picture? Picture of the president, the chairman of the APC, and the principal officers named in the National Assembly. Whoa. As they say, the intrigues of politics continue. When will it end? But that story continues on page 6. Go check it out. Below that, over 400 Kuje escapees yet to be captured 1 year after prison break. Didn't see that one coming. Over 400 Kuje escapees yet to be captured 1 year after prison break is on page 6, news page 6 as well. And then Kanu anti-graft panel probes Ganduje's dollar clips, 1 billion naira fraud. I thought he went to court to get an injunction that he should not be probed or questioned about that. Well, the Kano anti-graft panel is probing that. Let's see what will happen from there. But let's check out the full details on page 30. Huriwa accuses JAMB of violating Mmesoma's rights. Wants management probed. Page 4. This matter still has plenty of questions that need to be answered. But go to page 4 to find out details of that story. Above the nameplate, you have Tinubu Shetima open defense today in Obi LP's petition, news page 3. And this is an analysis. Imperative of separating AGF from Justice Minister. Is this the administration where we'll see that happen? Timmy.
I'll wait and see. Time tells a lot of things.
Okay. Pandef, Huriwa, others score Guardian high at 40, and that's it from the Guardian.
And the leadership is what I'm looking at next for you this morning. Of course, it continues with the National Assembly's naming of principal officers, the remaining principal officers, and this is how it chooses to capture it. NASS leadership, confusion as APC disowns Akpabio Abbas over principal officers. Quite a number of riders, but let's take a look at them. Says party yet to decide on positions. Bamidele Ndume emerged Senate leader, Chief Whip. Ihobere Kumo Chinda emerge in reps. NWC meets with governors ahead of NEC caucus meetings. Now the question is, following this disowning by the ruling party of these principal officers, will there be a change? Can there be a reversal? Looks unlikely, but anything can happen. As they say, 24 hours is a long time in Nigerian politics. Even 10 minutes, right? But Ayo, these are the real issues. Away from the politics of the National Assembly, go just underneath the nameplate, you find this one. Inflation, beef, rice, yam prices surge in May. That's ascribed to the NBS. But the NBS is already telling us what we already know, the reality Nigerians are facing of that monthly increase in the price of, foodstuffs, basics. As a matter of fact, the counsel for Nigerians now is to buy non-perishable in bulk so that, before you buy the next plausible price, because the price of things are going up almost every other month.
The counsel that I would just give to Nigerians, look, if you get a pay increase, don't increase your wants.
Expenditure.
Just save up.
Honestly.
This phase that we're in now, I remember I was in the austerity measures of the Shagari governments that saw the Buhari military government coming into play at the time. People were, were storing up food in dried form, dried tomato, dried tatashe, dried, all those. They just store up in the house. Dried meat, dried fish, so you could have it for a long time. So even if there was any form of scarcity or something, the family was still safe until whenever it is. So maybe this will help us do some thinking. But the real issues that you said is, look, those are the principal issues.
Those are the principal issues. And there's another principal issues right above the nameplate. This time is from Taraba State. Subsidy removal. Taraba civil servants sell off cars. Let's leave it there for Leadership newspaper.
All right, go to the Daily Trust right now. The front page of Daily Trust newspaper is also talking about the National Assembly leadership, and that's what you have right on the front page. The crack in APC as Adamo rejects Bamidele Ndume, other principal officers. But one of the writers is very interesting. Senate President, Speaker have our backing. Progressive governors. I'm wondering where they said that, because it was during that meeting with the national chairman of the party that he was telling them, well, that list that they published is not from us, so it's not from this secretary. So I'm wondering whether it's at the same venue that they said that they had a backing. I don't know, but you can check the details on page 4. How minority leaders emerged That's also right there on that same page. Of course, the pictures tell the story.
The question is, are progressive governors on the same page with the political party?
The most important thing for me, are they on the side of the people?
With the ruling party, rather.
Are they on the side of the people? That's the most important thing.
That question could keep going on. You would ask if the National Assembly, is on the side of the people.
Exactly.
If you went by what the Senate President said, settle down and support the Tinubu administration. That's if it means the same thing as supporting the people you are representing. I hope they are one and the same.
Exactly. So, but right under the nameplate, you'll find this one: no presidential directive to reopen additional borders as ascribed to customs. Well, that story is right there. Under that picture is the story we highlighted again. IPOB enforces sit-at-home order in Ebonyi. But look at this one. Talking about real issues. A very interesting angle to it. Dad sues son for stealing stepmom's money.
That's how bad it can get, Ayo.
Story is on page 20. Dad sues his own son for stealing stepmother's money. Okay, that's the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
I'll take a look at New Telegraph. 10th Assembly Principal Officers. Adamu rejects Akpabio. Abbas choices, says selection mere rumor. Oh, whoa. As Bamidele, Ndume, Nyobere, Chinda emerge Senate leader, chief whip, House leader, minority leader, respectively. You can't announce principal officers without recourse to party. APC chair, so he's talking tough there. How they're going to handle all of this? INEC, 2023 polls most meticulously planned. What about the execution? And then you see, he says action to be taken on Adamawa wreck, others soon. 427 lawyers to prosecute 215 election offenders. So, wow, that's what you see there. Remember that comment that came through from, I think it was the former governor of Zamfara, asking government to negotiate with bandits. There's a response here. Don't negotiate with bandits. Emirates tells Tinubu, says they will acquire arms, kill more people. I guess he's trying to say leopard doesn't change the spot.
No.
But, so if this is their narrative now, what then happened? Do you remember there were some of them who were said to have been de-radicalized and brought back into this society. So in the face of this narrative, it means they just might question that process. But after all, there's several people who questioned that at the time too, talking about the time frame, how do we ensure that this is properly done, and then you
the effectiveness of the de-radicalization.
So it's wow. Who knows how all of this will also,
as they say, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Maybe again the new service chiefs need to look at and re-strategize how to go about this thing once and for all.
All right, there you go. That is New Telegraph this morning.
I have the Nigerian Tribune, and they lead with presidential election court. Tinubu tenders educational records from Chicago State University, U.S. visa. The writers to open defense today in OBLP's petition. INEC closes defense, presents documents. Page 15 and 21 has more on that. And tied to the election above the nameplate, remember that split in the leadership of the Afenifere? So, Makinde present as Afenifere leaders meet to unite Adebanjo Fashoranti. That story is on page 15. And staying with the election issues, why INEC won't respond to EU report, Atiku Obi, credited to the chairman, is on page 5. And see what he says. It says, police findings on axed Adama wreck ready. When would the prosecution begin? No, he has not given the date for that yet. UTME score controversy, how Mmesoma was helped to manipulate result. JAMB alleges, is on page 8. Robber storm in a palace, shoot 2 guards, on page 28. Sit at home, gunmen burn police van, disperse traders, page 28. And we see the pictures of the lawmakers that were appointed yesterday into different principal positions, but below that, APC disowns Bamidele Umahi Ndume Others as Senate reps principal officers emerge in 10th NASS. Details continue on page 21. And that's it from the Tribune.
And let's go now to Daily Independent, as it also continues with that trail on the outcome of the naming of principal officers at the National Assembly yesterday. NASS principal officers Akpabio, Abbas, Sean PDP, name Wike's men minority leaders. So who are Wike's men? You have to take a closer look at that list from the Senate and the House of Representatives. All right, there are just two riders. APC chair disowns principal officers, announced by Senate reps. We will resolve gap arising from NASS action, says Uzodimma. So the governors have a certain degree of influence even in the naming of these principal officers, just as reports suggested that they did during the election of the Senate President, the Deputy Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker. But let's go to other stories now. This is the outcome of the PPC yesterday. Tribunal admits Tinubu's Chicago varsity record, U.S. visa in evidence. And, of course, we also know that the electoral umpire has closed its defense in the case of LP. At the bottom of that one also is a follow-up on election petition cases. Adebutu PDP storm election tribunal with 8,000 exhibits against Abiodun. There are some stories that we cannot ignore above the nameplate. This one, Enugu government threatens to shut schools, markets over sit-at-home order. And underneath that one, there's just one rider. Anambra government, IPOB denounce sit-at-home. The question is, do you solve a problem with yet another problem? You're also already losing, economic potential as a result of the Monday sit-at-home, but must you also shut schools and markets over the sit-at-home?
As we have highlighted, the authorities have their own job cut out for them, because we know the importance of education, we know the importance of healthcare. What this means is, I don't even know how the people of the Southeast have lived, for so long
in the last few years.
Of these, because I remember again, Mr. Fashola mentioning that, look, Monday sit-at-home means 52 days of no work. Lots of economic activities. Are hotels open? Are hospitals open? Are fire service workers open? All those things.
Schools are closed.
So I don't know. It's just disheartening.
Let's leave it there for Daily Independent.
Let's switch to this Nigerian newspaper this morning, and it's also focusing on the National Assembly on its front page, how Bamidele Ndume Ihonvere Chinda emerged as Senate reps leaders. Stories you'll find on pages 4 and 5. And Senate justifies white pig principal officers without party anointing. Well, is that a first? I guess we'll get to hear more of that in the course of the program this morning. PPC, Tinubu submits U.S. varsity documents, others to counter Atiku's claims. INEC closes defense against LP's petition, rejects downloaded blurred results. All of that you'll find, on the front page, but the stories you'll find on page 5. I read beside the nameplate, Nigeria's food inflation rate grows by 1.13% year-on-year for May. We highlighted that earlier. The details of that you'll find on page 16 of this Nigerian newspaper this morning, if you pick a copy. That's this Nigerian newspaper today.
Okay, News Direct. News Direct is, I have News Direct here. Come in. News Direct publishers exit. That's what they lead with, a sad one. The publisher of the newspapers just passed on, but may his soul rest in peace. But above that, we have the 2023 elections. INEC vows to prosecute 215 electoral offenders airing wrecks. It's on page 2. NASS leadership, APC, NWC, Akpabio, Abbas at loggerheads. And the new telecom revenue assurance regime will kick off soon at NCC, reveals. It's on page 4. And that's it from News Direct.
All right, so there you go. That ends it with a look at some of the dailies here this morning, commiserating with the family and company News Direct. We are back in a moment. Stay on with us.
But one thing I want you to Nigerians to note is that among all the 1.6 million candidates, how come it's only Mmesoma that is having this result? Go on the street and ask any candidate.
She's the only one.
She's the only person. Nobody.
What about the person that JAMB says in Kaduna?
Even that person was even smarter than her because the person didn't print this. The person attempted to print this. The person was smarter than her because the person knew that this is the result that we're using for 2023. She's the only person parading this particular result sheet. Go on the street. I challenge anybody, ask candidates that have sat for 2023 UTME, whether anybody has printed this kind of result. This is what we use in 2021, and we never use it again. From 2022, this is the system. Results label is what we have been producing because it comes with a picture. Mmesoma is the only candidate that is paraded in. And look at the date of birth. But how come she's having two different dates of birth and two different results?
So why then did she say that she printed the result from JAMB portal and that JAMB is just trying to harass her and her family, and then after the results were released over 2 months ago, why is it taking JAMB this long to say that to say what you're saying now? And she went on to say using the QR code is indicating another name. She cannot do what you accuse her of doing. She's a brilliant girl.
It'll be very interesting because we have the video here.
Well, I can decide to define myself in whatever form I want to say I'm brilliant. I don't have capacity to do that and all those things. Because if you have the ability to detect who has capacity to commit crime, then our problem would have been solved. You go on the street and begin to arrest them. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this result is not our result. Let me show you. If you look at this notification slip, this is her notification slip that she printed for examination. Before you approach the center, you must print this. Look at the venue of the examination center, and look at the center on this result. Look at the way it is written. We don't write this sort of a thing. If you go on the street and you ask any candidate that sat examination in this center, you will see that this is not the name of the center.
What is the way forward now? Because people are asking that DSS investigates this.
We are open. As I was coming, funny enough, as I was coming here, somebody even called me. Yeah. The candidate is parading another result that he scored 400 over 400. You can see that they're making just of the whole thing. Okay. Having this slip and mutilating it and all this thing.
So what is the way forward?
We are open. In fact, we heard that the governor is considering a committee of inquiry into this matter. We are interested. I've sent a message to the Commissioner of Education that please invite us. We will come with all the facts, and we want to appeal to Airtel to also appear because Airtel has all the communication, the interaction between this candidate and JAMB on the phone. And if the candidate will be sincere to bring her phone, you can see those transactions. Dates are there. If you had gone further, you will see that yesterday she also printed the result.
So where would she have gotten this from?
Yesterday?
Where could this have emanated from?
She just got it on the street and mutilated those things. It's not taking her anywhere. Even if you go to the school where she chose, that result is not there. But what we are doing is just to protect the interests of the public out there. Otherwise, on our system, there is nothing like that showing there. Nobody has compromised our system. Our system is intact. We have no any fear or any doubt. We are not perturbed about whatever is all this. But people that are out there, so that they won't be deceived, they won't be defrauded.
Let's follow up on that conversation beginning this morning with Mr. Romanus Ejikeme, who is father of Mmesoma Ejikeme Joy, the young lady who was accused of forging her 2023 UTME result by JAMB. Good morning, Mr. Ejikeme. Thank you for joining us this morning. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, yes. Good morning. Just give us an update. We know that the school is aware now. The principal of the school has been speaking. The sponsors, the proposed sponsor of the scholarship, have also been speaking. And I believe that the state government is also coming up with some kind of intervention. What have you heard recently by way of an update in all of these issues that's been making the rounds? What is there any update? Is there anything new that you can tell us about the situation your precious daughter is in?
Many journalists came to my house yesterday, so I gave them the looking for the information that I know about.
Okay.
So we are still waiting for the new development.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead. We can hear you. Okay, well, what's this new information that you have that you gave to our people yesterday?
We are still making inquiry. We are still waiting for the investigation according to what they told us.
Can you confirm that the DSS is indeed looking into this, and has your daughter been contacted or spoken with about this?
You say, can I confirm what?
That the DSS has been contacted and is investigating your daughter or investigating this case?
Yes.
Okay. So has she been contacted? What can you tell us about that investigation by the DSS?
They're still investigating. That's where we are now. They're still investigating.
Who is investigating?
The DSS.
Okay. Now, what is the school doing? Her school, the secondary school, what is the school doing about this?
They are going to the DSS officer. They are the one who took her to DSS officer. So they are going there with her.
Mr. Jikeme, there are many accounts about how this story broke in the first place. Some are saying that the state government was going to honor your daughter after, it emerged that she reportedly got the highest score. Others are saying that it was, following the decision of, businessman Innocent to honor her. What exactly is the source? How did it come about, following which JAMB came out to say that her result was forged?
That's what they are just investigating now. Because she trained with 362 before they came out with another result. So we are still waiting for the DSS to do their final job. Then we get back to you people.
The results that she was holding up in that video is not the result sheet, according to JAMB, that was used for the 2023 UTME result. Can you tell us how she came about that sheet?
How she printed that sheet?
Yes.
I don't follow her to the place. I didn't go with her.
Okay, just to be clear, Mr. Jikeme, how old is your daughter? Just to confirm. 16.
She's 19.
She's 19. Okay. What's her date of birth?
Journalists are writing 16 and 15. So, as her age, but they ask me to tell them the actual age of the kid. They are writing 16. The journalists asked me to tell them the age of the kid.
So she's how old? You said she's 19. Can you confirm that? She's 19. Is it April or March? Because, the various months have been reported as well. April. Okay. Now, I'm concerned about how your daughter is feeling now. We saw, everyone has seen the video that she put out, in her own defense. How is she feeling right now about this? What can you tell us about your daughter? I mean, there's also claims that, you've also said that she's been a brilliant person from a very young age. Tell us about your daughter. Tell us about her. Go ahead, tell us about her.
Yes, I say she's very studious from early school till now. She's not looking with her education.
Okay. Mr. Romanus, you say that you didn't follow your daughter to print the result, but following the outcome of, this alleged forged result, aren't you concerned? Haven't you been asking her questions? You should be concerned about how she got that result sheet.
What do you say?
You said you didn't follow her to where she printed the result, but aren't you concerned following the outcome? You said?
I didn't go with her. I didn't go there with her.
But aren't you concerned? Haven't you asked her questions? I'm sure you've been following the outcome of the case. Can you hear us?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, is that, who's speaking with us now?
Good morning, I'm speaking with Joy now.
That's Mmesoma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mmesoma, thank you for joining us. Let's know how you're doing.
I'm fine now.
Okay. So we're asking your dad how you came about that result sheet, which JAMB said was used last in 2021 and its use has since been discontinued. Can you tell us how you came about it?
After our exam, I went to, because before that you have to register in the JAMB portal, send my address and everything. I went to JAMB portal. There, in that JAMB portal, I was trying to get my results. They redirected me to another server. There. That's why I inputted my reg number and the result. That is that result. That was what I got there. Downloaded it. I didn't go to any computer center for that.
You went to a JAMB portal, a JAMB website, to download and print this result.
Yes.
Were you the only one that were able to print this particular copy, or there are others like you who printed this particular copy that they said is outdated?
I've not seen anyone with this kind of copy.
When you say you went to a JAMB portal and you printed it yourself, you didn't go to any computer center, are you saying you printed it from home using your own device?
Like, phone now, if you want to check, you have your reg number. That's the main thing you're using to downloading your result. It's not the hard copy that I'm talking of.
So you downloaded it on your phone?
It's what they gave me that I downloaded, yes.
Who gave you?
I saw them when I went to JAMB. They said that they redirected me, so that's what I got there. So I downloaded it.
Okay. Now, I'm a little concerned about, because, I could hear that your daddy was a little distraught in the way he's speaking. How is he taking this? How is your mom also taking it?
Nobody's taking it lightly. Nobody's taking it lightly.
Okay.
You have also, according to JAMB, sent text messages to the USSD code used by JAMB to secure your result. And the spokesperson said yesterday that you allegedly doctored it by sending your own personally generated score of 362, and the USSD code kept on sending you your original result of 249. Please confirm that you did that or deny it.
The only SMS I sent to them was through JAMB student support system. That was the only SMS I sent them.
So what was the response you got? What was the feedback you got from the USSD code?
They didn't reply.
There was no reply.
Their JAMB support system, they'll see that. Send them the first message.
Okay.
Do you use an Airtel line?
Yes.
And you didn't initiate any correspondence about 4 times to JAMB USSD code trying to get your result?
Hello?
The spokesman said yesterday that you have tried to secure your result and you have sent text messages to the organization's USSD code, and that you were sending your original. You said?
It's not through USSD code. The one I checked in USSD code is the one of 360 that I saw.
And you haven't gotten any feedback from JAMB saying that you got 249, which was your original score from JAMB?
Yes.
Okay, just this one.
After all said and done, I now saw that I got 249. I sent them a text message there. Okay. You know what's really happened in JAMB support system. If they go to their system, they'll see it there. If they can truly go to their system, they'll see it there.
Now, JAMB says, they have suspended you and they said that they have withdrawn your result. How do you feel about that, and what do you want done?
It's true, I'm sad about it because the problem might not be my fault. It's not my fault that I printed my result like that and they said that I forged my result. It's not my fault. So they banning it. It's not fair. It's not fair to me.
All right, well, Mmesoma Ejikeme, we have to thank you for speaking to us this morning and hope that, this will all be resolved. Also, thank your dad for us, Romanos Ejike, who spoke with us earlier, okay?
Thank you.
All right, we're back after now. Do stay with us.
It's back to work for these senators who are resuming after a 2-week recess to allow them settle down for the task ahead. They had gone on a break a day after the inauguration of a 10th Assembly. The day in the Red Chamber begins with the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, announcing the names of principal officers from the majority All Progressives Congress, who he says emerged by consensus.
APC, the All Progressive Congress, caucus of the Senate, after due consultations, have emerged with their leadership, which will be the fulcrum of commencing other businesses in the chambers. So I'm happy to announce that by consensus, the Senate leader is Senator Opeyemi Bamidele. He will be the majority leader of the Senate and the Senate leader. Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume will be the chief whip of the 10th Senate. Senator David Umahi, by your consent, will act as the deputy leader, and Senator Oyorola Isha Ashiru will be the deputy chief whip.
He's ready to announce the names of the principal officers from the minority parties. But it appears some senators want further discussions on this matter, prompting the Senate President to call for an executive session.
So we'll go for a 10-minute closed session before further announcement.
Less than 30 minutes later, the session ends, plenary resumes, and the Senate President makes an announcement.
Majority of members of the minority caucus of the Senate, made up of about 7 political parties, have come up with their leadership. So I will just proceed to announce. Senator Simon Davor Nwakwom, minority leader. Distinguished Senator Oyewumi Olarere, deputy minority leader. Distinguished Senator Darlington Wokocha, minority whip. Distinguished Senator Rufai Hanga, deputy minority whip.
Curiously, all principal officers in the minority leadership are all former lawmakers in the House of Representatives and none from the Senate. But the emergence of the principal officers from the minority appears to have ruffled the feathers of some senators from minority parties.
Of the Federal Republic and of Nigeria on a minority party, and a minority leader has emerged without even sending me a text message that I'm seeking for your vote or your concurrence, support to be a minority leader. What type of parties are we having in PDP? We have 36 out of the 50 senators that are in the minority caucus. And then we cannot even come together and agree who should lead us.
The position that went to Senator Hanga should have gone to somebody out of from the minority from a different state, so as to continue to balance, because the Deputy Senate presidency is already in Kano.
Now that the positions of the principal officers of the Senate have been filled, the next task before the upper chamber is to name its special and standing committees, as well as the leaders and members of these committees.
Here's a roll call of what later just reported. The Senate leader, Okwayemi Bamidele, Deputy Senate Leader, Senator Dave Umahi, Chief Whip, Ali Nduma, Deputy Chief Whip, Lola Ashuru, Minority Leader, Simon Devo Mwacom, Deputy Minority Leader, Oyewumi Olarere, Minority Whip, Darlington Wokocha, and Deputy Minority Whip is Rufai Hanga. So that's a roll call of some of the names that the President of the Senate did announce, as you saw in that report put together by Linda. But for the principal officers in the House of Representatives, you've got the Majority Leader, Julius Yonvere, Deputy Majority Leader, Halims Abdullahi, Chief Whip, Bello Kumo, Deputy Chief Whip, Adeomi Ononuga, Minority Leader, Kingsley Chinda, Deputy Minority Leader, Aliyah Madiki, Minority Whip, Ali Issa, and Deputy Minority Whip, George Ibizimawa. So those are the names of the principal officers there. But, shortly after that, the chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Blair Damu, did speak, and as you also saw us highlight in our opening this morning in the dailies, he flatly rejects that list, saying what you just saw, he treats it as a rumor. He says the list of those principal officers announced by the leadership of the two chambers of National Assembly is unacceptable. He said there's a convention, there's a procedure. It's supposed to have been selected from the Secretariat, but it didn't come from the Secretariat, and as such, he considers it as a rumor. So those are some of the undercurrents of what is going on. But joining us this morning to talk about some of these matters here in the studio is Senator Bassey. He joins us virtually today. Senator Gershom Bassey was a member of the 8th and 9th Senate. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Yeah, Chamberlain.
Okay, so you're not new to this kind of developments in the Senate. So just go ahead and tell us what your impression is of all of what you've seen playing out in the Senate for a start.
Well, the National Assembly and the Senate in particular has a mind of its own. And normally there are attempts to influence the goings-on in the Senate. But from my experience, the Senate is its own, has a mind of its own. And what usually happens is that the Senate works closely with the party or whichever parties are interested. And that is how they reach some kind of understanding. But primarily, it is the Senate that takes the lead. So in this case, I think the Senate is in order. I think they have taken the lead. They have elected or nominated their principal officers, and that's in order. In the case of the majority party, I think that they have done well. They have very qualified people and experienced ranking senators in office. The slight concern is probably in the case of the minority parties, where some of the leadership are all new senators, but they're also experienced legislators. So even though they are new, they have rank. Okay. So they should be able to do the work. All right. Okay.
Before we go on to further take a look at these key persons and who they are, a little bit of the background and the import of their appointments, the chairman of the party did say, look, he received the president of the Senate, the deputy president of the Senate. Then the next day he received the speaker and the deputy speaker. And then you'd have thought that, all right, probably ahead of the announcement of the resumption, they might be working together. Only for him to come up and say, no, this list didn't come from us, so this is unacceptable. What becomes of this list? I mean, what is the implication of his position, his stance on this announcement? Does it change anything?
Like I said before, the Senate takes the lead. And normally what the Senate president announces is what subsists. It's very difficult for outsiders to come in and tell the Senate how to run their business. Normally, out of courtesy and out of convention, the Senate would carry the party along. It's a handshake. So both people. But in this case, there's really not much anybody outside of the Senate can do. They can put pressure, they can complain. But I think primarily it is what the senators decide that will will take precedence.
So yes, go ahead.
So it's an internal matter of the APC, and I think the APC will have to find a way to resolve it internally.
But then looking at the list of both the minority and probably the majority leaders, but if you go first with those of the minority leaders who were announced and excuse me, and how, yes, they have some legislative experience, but from the House, a lot of those who are appointed, who are announced, and then they are not exactly rankings and first-timers in the Senate, as it were. So is there any significance? You think this must have been carefully thought out before this announcement was made?
Well, as you have reported, Channels has reported, there was a closed session before this announcement. So clearly, if there was a closed session, then my thinking, or from my experience, it means that there were issues to be resolved in the closed session. So the idea of it being carefully thought out, I'm not sure that would actually apply here because they went into closed session. With regards, do you want me to talk about their experience? Or
yes, please.
Well, with regards to their experience for the minority, I think if you look at our rules, clearly the senator who is the Senate minority leader has rank because there are two planks on which you have rank. One is a repeating senator, and two is coming from the House of Reps. So he's coming from the House of Reps, and therefore he has rank, and so he's qualified to be a minority leader. You recall that in the 8th Assembly, we had the current Senate president as minority leader, even though he was a first-time legislator. So when it comes to the principal officers, the idea of rank is really for you to have the capacity to do the work. That is really what it's about. It's not like when you're talking about the presiding officers, where rank is really one of the prerequisites for that job. But when it comes to the principal officers, we talk about rank in terms of your capacity to do the work, and that is really an internal thing. So yeah, they have the capacity to do the work in terms of the minority. And as I've already said, in terms of the majority, Bamidele Okweyemi he's been in the House of Reps, and this is his second term as a senator, second consecutive term. Therefore, he's overqualified to be majority leader. And of course, Ali Ndume has been there. I think this is his 5th term in the Senate, consecutive term in the Senate. So he's really qualified, and so on and so forth. The only person there that is a new senator is the former governor of Ebonyi State, but he's only operating in the deputy capacity. And as a deputy leader, he will be able to quickly understudy what the leader is doing and what the others are doing and come up to speed. So I think I must congratulate the 10th Assembly. So far, so good.
Senator Bassey, okay, so let's step back a little bit. I mean, the emergence of the President of the Senate and his deputy was in line with the advice of the party, that's APC. Now, these other principal officers that were announced, of course, you've heard the reaction of the chairman of the party saying, hey, I wasn't carried along in this announcement, so to speak. What is obtainable normally? I mean, you've been there, you were in the 8th and you were in the 9th Assembly, so before you've been there, so to speak. So tell us, what would be the right or the normal process that should have happened before these announcements were made?
Well, like I have said, look, it's usually a handshake. The party and the parliamentary party work together, and these things happen. But the truth of the matter is that it is always the parliamentary party that takes the lead. But they work along with the party. And so I'm sure they'll resolve this internally. But I think once the parliamentary party has pronounced on this, there's very little that can be done except the parliamentary party itself changes its mind.
The parliamentary party being the members of the National Assembly?
Yes, being in the case of the Senate, being the senators. Except the senators change their minds. there's very little that an outsider, an external force can do.
So what happens, yes, in this case now being that when there was that argument about who should occupy the position of the president of the Senate and the deputy, there was that argument. The party wanted certain people wanted the current president of the Senate, but the senators themselves were asking for an opportunity to choose their own. Eventually, they went along with the party's advice, as I said earlier. But in this case, that is not working out that way. How do you think this relationship will go? I mean, unless, as you said, the Senate decides to change their mind. What would the relationship between the senators and their party be like?
Well, like I said, this is an internal problem for the APC, and I'm sure that they will find a way to resolve. I mean, we all know that the APC are the ruling party, so they have enough levers to press. I mean, of course, the number one person that can resolve this, if he so decides, is the president himself, the president of the country, who is an APC member and former leader of the APC. So you have that lever, and you have other levers that they can press to resolve this issue. So I would put too much flesh. I mean, it's a I don't know. It's
okay. So for the opposition,
it's a normal political issue, and it will be resolved, I'm sure.
But for the opposition parties that you belong to the PDP, and one would think that the opposition will be happy that okay, now the APC's ranks are sort of like not exactly in disarray, but in somewhat of a disarray. One would think that the opposition parties will be happy, and now we have room and we have inroads into this structure as it is. Is that working out for you and your party?
No, I think I haven't consulted or spoken to anybody in my party. But I think before I'm a party member, I'm in Nigeria. And the most important thing is that Nigeria is at a crossroads right now. And the most important thing is for Nigeria's institutions of power to be working optimally. That is the most important thing. And so I don't think we should be playing politics with this type of situation. The most important, I think we want our Senate and our National Assembly to be functioning optimally so that they can complement whatever it is the executive is doing. And
talking about, if I may come in here, talking about the institutions and how they function optimally, the amended constitution gives the president 60 days to submit his list. If I stand to be corrected, about 60 days ago, about submit a list of those for nomination into the office of ministers and all of that. Do you think the legislators are ready to get this done? I mean, as soon as they were inaugurated, they took 2 weeks off, which is a normal thing for them to settle in. But they are back now. What are the things you think they should be looking at that really get things going real quick to get Nigeria off the ground where it's been, especially as regards the economy?
Well, you've asked several questions there all in one. Yeah. If we talk about the functioning of the Senate itself, there are certain committees that have to be formed immediately. Those are, I think, within 14 days, you have to form those committees. Public accounts, legislative compliance, and so on and so forth. There are a number of very key committees. So that's the next item on the agenda. After that, of course, all the other committees have to be constituted. But in terms of, you were asking about the ministerial list. I'm sure, there's nothing to the work is quite straightforward. So I think that as soon as I was a member of the Constitution Review Committee that made those amendments to the Constitution and brought in the 60-day rule so that we do not delay the country unduly in terms of formation of government. So I'm sure that as soon as the president sends his list to the Senate will be ready. And normally those confirmations and those things are done in the committee of the whole. They're not sent to the subcommittees. So even though there may be no committees, the full complement of committees may not be available. You'll find that because it is a committee of the whole, the entire Senate will be able to sit down and clear those ministers if they so find them fit.
So, Senator, the numbers in the Senate, those who belong to different parties, yes, we see that the APC does have 59 members, but all the other opposition put together, about 50 of them. Do these numbers, do they count for something on the floor when you get in for deliberations and such things? Because, yes, they've also announced the principal officers, but how do these numbers usually play out, and in what circumstances could they be useful?
Well, normally numbers count when it comes to voting. And as you know, there are certain thresholds for voting. In some instances, you require a simple majority. For instance, if you're clearing ministers, they could take a voice vote and do a simple majority. But in other instances, for instance, in a constitutional amendment, there may be some amendments that require certain thresholds, like 2/3 and so on, where you need to call for a division in the chambers. So that is where numbers become important. Or, for instance, if you're talking about impeachment, in impeachment, there are certain thresholds if you want to impeach certain officers, both in the executive and even in the legislature. So in those circumstances, numbers become extremely important. But in terms of debate, usually the Senate President will call senators that are interested in contributing. So it's numbers now become less important because you are contributing as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if you have something to say, usually the Senate President will allow you to say it. And so, of course, in terms of Senate committees, you would have thought that committees will be shared almost along the lines of at least the ruling party will probably have more committees than the opposition parties because they are more. And that is more of an arithmetic thing than any other thing. So, I think that normally the numbers account or are very important when it comes to issues of voting.
For these principal officers who have been announced, because yes, we usually see lots of contestations for those positions, how they earnestly want to occupy those seats. So does it really affect their constituencies? Of what benefit is it if they have to make laws and impact on those who elected them?
Well, the principal officers, first and foremost, most of them are members of the selection committee, which is probably the next committee that will be constituted. It's one of those key committees that must be constituted within 14 days, what is called the selection committee. The selection committee is the committee that constitutes all the other committees, and it's usually made up of the principal officers. Now, if you are a principal officer from Cross River State, my state, and you are in the selection committee, then you will have an influence, or you'll have influence when it comes to determining which committee comes to your state. You will have that, and and you'll have influence in determining committees that go to other states as well. So principal officers can be important in that regard. Although normally there's a formula, they try to be fair to all states and try to be fair to all persons. But then you can have 3 committees in Cross River State and 3 committees in, say, Bayelsa State. But the 3 committees will not be carried, at least to the normal person. Those 3 committees may not carry the same weight. Some committees will be heavier than others. So, you can have influence in terms of that. You can also have influence in terms of influencing other things that may come to the Senate. But generally, those things are because what the leadership tries to do is to be fair-minded, and so that influence can be a bit are just nuanced. Those are nuanced. The influence is nuanced.
Okay. Senator Bassey, good morning from Lagos. The list is interesting, no doubt, and you've been in the Senate before. I'd like you to give us an aerial view, particularly with regards to what political undertones may have been responsible, particularly for the emergence of a particular name in the list. That's Senator Dave Umahi, who is a former governor of a southeast state. There are other names there, that could have, taking the position of deputy majority leader. Senator Ali Ndume, for instance, he's a long-time senator, 5th time, as you rightly observed. And there are other senators as well who are experienced parliamentarians, Senator Ningi, Senator Dixon. So what could have been responsible for, the decision of the leadership of the Senate to pick Senator Dave Umahi as deputy majority leader?
Well, I'm not inside the Senate and I'm not part of the APC caucus, but I can hazard a guess. And normally you would say, first of all, David Umahi was the chairman of the Gospel Akpabio campaign for Senate President, so that gives him some consideration. Of course, the second thing is that he's from the Southeast, and the issue of spread is also very important. And then the third thing is that he's coming in a deputy position, So for a person like Ali Ndume, who I think he was also co-chairman along with David Umahi, I want to believe that he had an option on what he wanted. You remember that Ali Ndume was leader of the Senate in the 8th Assembly, so he has already been a leader, and so he chief whip is a substantive position. So maybe that was his thinking. The other thing you talked about regards other high-ranking senators who are not in the leadership. It's an option. You could be offered minority leader, you could be offered chief whip, but it's up to you. You may say, no, I prefer to be chairman of the committee. I don't want to be in leadership. That's your prerogative. So it's not that when you are, it's not, there's always a give and take and always a discussion. And I know that in my experience, a number of people have opted out of leadership and said, look, they don't want to be in leadership. They prefer to be committee chairman. So that's the way it goes. But
you know that the National Assembly as a whole places premium on the ranking principle. How will this go down well? Will this go down well with other senators who consider themselves ranking and more deserving of leadership positions, in the principal capacity, rather than a first-time senator?
No, look, Senator Godswill Akpabio was our minority leader in the 8th Assembly. And yet there were other more ranking senators, people who had been there, James Manager, George Thompson, Sikibo, also other high-ranking members of the 8th Assembly from the zone that the minority leadership was zoned to. But we opted to go with all of them. Opted to go with Godswill Akpabio. So it's not unusual to have high-ranking senators or back or support newly ranked or newly ranked or lower ranked, no, not lower ranked, but less ranked senators. So it's a normal thing. They will accept it. They will be happy with it if they were consulted and they were carried along, and the business of the Senate will continue.
I wonder if you saw the papers today. Some couched the headlines to suggest that the Senate leadership went with Wike's men. In fact, the House of Reps leadership specifically went with former Governor Wike's men. And there is this concern that the governor is heart and soul with the ruling party. And as such, his men who have been picked will not offer that much needed opposition to the leadership of the House. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, the whole concept of offering opposition, I've always found it to be more of I think, playing to the gallery. The whole idea that just because you're in another party, you must always be opposing what the ruling party does. I find that a bit. I think that the overriding concern must be the interest of the country. And if issues come to the Senate and they are in the best interest of the country, then there is no reason why the so-called opposition should not go along with it. However, if they see contributions they can make to enrich those issues, or they can make contributions that can ensure that those issues, or or those issues they feel are not in the best interest of the country, then they can come up and say, look, we don't agree with this. So I'm a bit careful when it comes to this concept of opposing everything that comes from the executive or comes from anywhere. That's the first thing. The second question that you asked, the second issue that you raised, which is the Wike issue. I don't know. I know that the fellow in the House of Reps had contested for, I think, minority leader in the 9th Assembly, and he was not successful. And so, having come back in the 10th Assembly, maybe he still had the ambition to be a minority leader, and therefore it was natural that he would contest. That's the way I see it. So I'm not sure about which factor is which. In the Senate, like I have said, they had a closed-door session before coming out with that list. And therefore, I want to believe that that closed-door session must have resolved a lot of issues, and that fundamentally, the leadership that emerged must have been the choice of the minority senators. Otherwise, we would have seen a lot of pushback or blowback. So far, I've not seen much blowback from the minority senators. So that's the way I see it.
Well, Senator Bassey, I mean, it's interesting. One of the things that comes to me, and I don't know how you see it, you may want to respond to it, that once you're a senator, always a senator. I mean, if you are a journalist and you can always go back. I don't know if you can say the same thing for a senator. You can always go back if you want to, but you may want to respond to that as just on the comic side. But, you know, the one that interests me is something that you said repeatedly, the ruling party, the ruling party, the ruling party. Now, there are those who will be wondering whether or not the Fourth Republic has really been able to make as prominent as expected the role of the party in making decisions for the country. I always go back to the previous republics, particularly the first 3 republics that we've had. The party supremacy was very strong, such that it's the policies or the initiatives or the manifestos or the plans of the party, the programs of the party, that the elected officials always play up. In the First Republic, in the Second Republic, even in the Third Republic, it was so, although botched at some point. So, but what we have in recent time is perhaps one of the reasons a number of people are saying, how come the leadership of the leadership of the National Assembly is not going by the dictates of the ruling party in this? Do you see that as something significant in our polity generally, irrespective of whichever political party it is, at the federal or state level, where the position of the political party, upon which platform they got into office, may not be as strong or solid as that of the individuals who are elected into power?
Well, if I understand what you're asking, you're talking about, like you say, party supremacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that once you're elected, first of all, parties should be encouraged to have manifestos. And those manifestos give a broad general outline of what they intend to do. Now, what they intend to do and what they find when they get into office, I'm talking about the executive now, even the legislature, may be 2 different things. You may believe that the debt of the country is X, but when you get into office, you find that it is X, 3X or 4X when you get into office. So, and you must govern. So, the most important thing is the country. Once you are elected, the most important thing is the country, or the state, or wherever it is, or local government, or wherever it is you're elected to serve. That is the most important thing. The party manifesto and even the party the party interests should be secondary.
But doesn't that also raise an issue, Senator Bassey? Because if the political party that is seeking a job, because that's the way it should be, the political party is a platform seeking a job to make a country or a state better. So if the political party is not aware of the issues they're going to tackle when they get the job, why should they be taken seriously? So it begs the question of whether or not there are some things that need to be readjusted in the polity. So whatever policies are come up with by a political party should be good enough for the country. Otherwise, why stick the job?
No. But look, let me give you a very clear example that all of us have experienced. COVID. COVID was in nobody's political manifesto. It was not in anybody's political agenda. But COVID happened. And we, especially us in the 9th Assembly and the last government, had to react to COVID. And of course, we reacted by providing budgetary funding and all that. But these were outliers. These were events that we did not, nobody could have included in any manifesto. So that's why I'm saying that once you are in government and once there is governance, then you have to govern. You cannot now start talking about your manifesto is in the background. It gives you a general compass. It's a general compass, as it were. But in terms of governing, you must deal with the realities of ground. And so I think that political parties need to understand that as they go along. The idea that the political party will dictate to the government doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think it is practiced like that in other territories around the world, other jurisdictions.
Senator, I mean, you spoke about you being in that committee that adjusted the requirements, the timeline within which the president has got to send a list of his ministerial nominees. Well, hopefully that might even happen next week. Who knows? But are they, or will he, or will the Senate, or should the Senate expect that he will attach portfolios to those names when he sends them to them?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. He is not required to attach portfolios. That is for sure. Because of course, the obvious reason, which is that portfolios can change. So he's not required to attach portfolios. But I think that I agree to a large extent with the argument that attaching portfolios, at least initial portfolios, to the names will make the job of the senators better or easier or more effective. Because if you say that Mr. A is going to be Attorney General, for instance, then we are able to have a more useful engagement when we engage with him in the clearing. If you say somebody is going to be Minister of Works, you can really engage with him on issues that will eventually come up when it comes to, say, budget defense and all that. You can engage with him and get his mindset on key issues that have. So I think, yes, you're not required to, but personally, I would like a situation where the president can attach the initial portfolios of these nominees as he sends the names to the Senate. It would be a more useful engagement for the Senate.
All right, Senator Bassey, member of the 8th and 9th Senate. Thank you very much indeed for your time here this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Some comments from you to close this program this morning. Oreoluwa says this about the JAMB conversation, says, how come JAMB's IT department did not notice the fake JAMB result app? Or did they come across it and waved it off? This sort of matter should come with thorough investigation from all angles so that issues like this does not ruin other candidates' chances.
Olagunju Oladele is also contributing to the JAMB matter, and he or she says, whether the girl was wrong or right, public institutions are supposed to be sensitive to putting out public statements. The threat of using the DSS to arrest her created a sentiment that fuels the toxic symbiotic relationship between the government and the masses.
Well, I don't have anyone here.
Okay, well,
open that up.
Okay, well, this one is from Eric Ibe. He says, the days of who gets what at the National Assembly is over. Senator Godswill Akpabio, Honorable Abbas, and their colleagues should get back to work and ensure that Nigeria is put on the right track of political prosperity. I think people want economic prosperity, much more than political, I guess. Who knows? But that is the show. We understand, actually. Thank you very much indeed for your messages. We appreciate all of them. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so have a good day.
Intrigues or not, just know that you came in there to serve the people and do serve the people that elected you. I'm Neo Taigwe. Thank you for watching. And
whatever you do, rise against the odds and live holy. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
Have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.